fade, crystals humming. Sacred grids remade, vibrational shift from 3D to 5D and beyond. Galactic family, eternal bond. Ascending now to the seventh dimension.
Namaste and like hitch, my family, and welcome to another sneak attack. We're on fire over here. I don't know if you guys have seen the polling, but TeamLight is straight in fuego, ladies and gentlemen across the planet. What's up? Sending love from Sedona. I am here in another episode of TeamLight Interviews, introducing the one, the only Mystic Matt Young. How you doing, brother?
Hey, man, I'm doing great. It is an honor, and it's going to be amazing today. So we're going to hopefully blow some people's minds, break some boxes, and just have some fun.
Yes, I am so excited. So Matt, so for all my family out there, they know, because I said it in the videos. I'm like, I'm going to Conscious Life LA. I'm going to hunt down one of my brothers and some speakers. And I was just walking through, and, I want you to tell everyone your background story, but I want to let everyone know the vibe. So I'm walking through Conscious Life LA, all the vending tables, and this one lady comes to my table and goes, "Hey, have you met Matt?" And I was like, "No," but I popped up, because I mean, obviously I'm surrounded by a bunch of people, and it's like a swarm. We were swarmed out there, and I was like, something was like, "Bing!" Like, get up. And I walk by, and I'm standing behind him, and I'm totally reading his energy field, and he's like a Syrian warrior. Like, I don't know. He's like a badass, one of us, you know what I'm saying? And he goes, "What's up, bro?" I go, "Hey, man. So tell me a little bit about yourself." And then look, let's go action. Matt, tell everyone why your story is so rad and the environment in which you were a part of. You're a pastor, bro. Tell everyone what happened, and then we'll get into more details about not only is this a perfect match, but like I said, ladies and gents, we are getting the A team together. Okay. And so that comes from different disciplines. You know, the deal here at TeamLight is a round table. And I just want you guys to know I'm very excited to introduce you to my brother, Mystic Matt Young. Matt, what's going on, bro? Tell them a little bit about yourself and we'll dive right in.
Yeah. I mean, for quite a while, the quick thing is I didn't grow up with any spirituality or religion. I was I had encounters as a kid with my eyes open, seeing diamond white lights come into my room. And then I've always seen and known. And so fast forward, I ended up in my 20s in Christianity. I became a pastor, in multiple different denominations that don't even agree with each other, have some weird beliefs, some more normalized. And in the last 12 years, I started doing hands-on healing and seeing just crazy healing miracles, blind eyes opening, deaf people hearing, pain leaving, and pretty frequent to where I started getting invited around the world. Ended up surprisingly in the Catholic Church. As a Protestant, that just doesn't happen. They give you titles. I'm always my name's Matt. Don't call me a title. And then, built a school in Malawi, Africa. Like there's so much. And because I had a visitation in Malawi where these chiefs came into my room in the middle of the night through the spirit and were like, you got to build the school. And then they told me why. So much like crazy stuff. And even one of the times I was in Malawi doing like ministry, I literally saw these people who were about over 6 feet tall, blonde hair, blue eyes, as I was doing like what in the church world they call deliverance ministry, clearing, exorcism, whatever you want to call it, removing stuff that doesn't belong, negative energy. Like those guys came to watch what I was doing. And, you can't tell those stories in church because people freak out. And so because like, this is kind of the culmination of I cast demons out of this medium who believed she was channeling her mom and she wanted some healing work. And she said, whatever you do, don't remove my mom. And I was like, hey, whatever you want, lady. And like, as I'm looking at her, I was like, oh, that's not your mom. That's definitely like something else. And I'm not against mediumship. Like it can be one of the most difficult things, but long story short, did healing work on her. And like 6 months later, she's having like hell, like break loose on her life. And she's like, help me, and I was like, and she goes, I realized my mom's a demon. I was like, yeah, that's awesome. Let's get rid of it and set her free.
Right.
And, with her help, of course. And I was telling like the Catholic Church this, I had a whole month of meetings. Like I'm talking hundreds of people, live stream, like, kind of a big deal in Germany and Austria and Switzerland. And, I've been to 30 countries doing this work. And when they found out I was doing, working in the metaphysical world, like they said, boop, see ya.
Right.
They absolutely loved what I did. They were just afraid of like everything's bad to them. And I completely understand. But so I've been in this world for about a year and a half. And it's been a lot of fun because there's no restrictions anymore. Nobody trying to control me. I mean, in general. So,
Well, here's the thing too. It's not so much they're scared. Let's be completely clear. The narrative of control and mind control and belief system control is a real thing on this planet. So it's, it's funny having a narrative where you're actually clearing and healing people and removing these entities. And at the very tippity top of some of these organizations, the beings there know exactly what they're doing and they know about the brainwashing and the mind control. So it's actually, quite refreshing to hear that you've freed yourself and now are able to do what you were always intended to do, which was heal people and clear people from these entities and energies. So the title of this video is The Unseen World. I took the glasses off for you. Matt's here, okay? So why don't we go through the checklist of all of the unseen spirits, some of the nasty ones that we discussed on the phone yesterday, a lot of the ones that kind of torment, a lot of the different populations around the planet. And then let's talk about kind of some of the different techniques you use to remove them. You know what I'm saying? Like here at TeamLight, we're all like solution-based processing, programming, ladies and gentlemen. Here seems to be the issue. How do you deal with it? How do you deal with it? So that's what I'd like to share. So Matt, what are some of the telltale signs that someone is having some sort of, let's just say, attachment controlling them? And then what are some of the ways they can remove it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge like spectrum, but usually what happens is people just feel like there's something off and not right. And I find what often happens is people either intentionally do some kind of ritualistic thing, engage in something that they have no business engaging with. And, or what often happens is, you think it's 0 to 13, the most vulnerable time of your life. People have these traumatic experiences from another human that person has an attachment and that person does some horrific thing to them and it transfers. And then they literally grow up with this thing attached to them. And it's not until their, 20s, 30s when they realize, hey, something's really off. And they've been hearing voices. They've had, all kinds of different experiences. And it's usually where like, they end up in front of me, and sometimes I'll see it, sometimes I'll know it. And with the kind of work I do, sometimes it's like when I put my hands on somebody, that's when I know for sure, because they'll start manifesting. And, manifestations can be good or bad. And in the sense of like common telltale signs, like at the Conscious Expo, put my hands on this lady and she's like, her eyes are like blinking like a million miles an hour. Like that's an entity. That's not, that's not Casper the Friendly Ghost.
We call that glitching.
Yeah.
So when you glitch somebody, yep.
This stuff, like there's most of the stuff, like some of this stuff is like, if you were horribly traumatized, your body will react in those ways. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's negative energy, but it's usually like, I always say, like, there's a lot of people that don't believe in any of this stuff. And I always just say, well, it believes in you. And this is why so many times I've done this work and people get healed in like 5 minutes or less, because once you remove that garbage out of their life, they're all of a sudden like, whoa, like this is what I'm supposed to feel like. Mm-hmm. And so whether you want to call it, negative energy, a demon, a hybrid, like a gray, like reptilian stuff, you can think of it as like attachment or oppression, possession, or it's like courted you and it's taking your energy. And then like, I've literally seen people who have like what looks like a squid on top of their head. Yep. And honestly, some of these people are the nicest people you'd ever meet. And they're just like doing good. And they've literally got a mind control squid on their head. And, it's hard to like, those are the things when somebody doesn't believe in this stuff, you can remove it in the same way. Like, I don't believe the garbage where people are like, oh, that person, their past karma is why they're sick and all that. Like that may be true, but I know because I've seen it over and over again. When you come in with like direct connection to source and come in with power, like nothing's going to stand in your way. So even like somebody who doesn't want to get healed can get healed. So yes, of course, it makes it more difficult if somebody's like working against you. It is easier if they're sleeping, all that kind of stuff. But in general, this stuff is so easy once you're operating in love and power. And that's the thing, is you can have power and no love, and you'll just literally blow something up. Like having both of them is so important. So it's really as simple as commanding the attachment to go. You don't need to know its name. You don't need to like get its phone number. You don't need to know where it's from. And then you need to actually send it somewhere.
Or what ex-partner you got it from in your early 20s. No, I'm just kidding, Matt. I make jokes.
I mean, you literally have to send it somewhere and lock it up. And this, again, I'm not worried about offending people, but I don't want to on purpose. But I know like in Hinduism, they'll cast something out of somebody and they'll send it to the temple and it'll be chilling in a statue or outside of the temple. And I literally was just talking to someone in Toronto this week who they were like, oh, my friend went to the Hindu temples. They had amazing time. And then they touched this statue and they shape-shifted into a snake. Right. And what I love is like, that stuff is real. I don't love that people have those kind of experiences, but like, I just meet people that like, they just don't believe in this stuff. And, you learn through doing and experience. At least that's how I do it. You could learn everything under the sun, informational wise, but it's like, some of us are born this way. People use the word awakening. I always just sometimes think of awakening as you were standing in this position, you had this experience and you just took 2 steps to the right. And now you have a completely different experience. And sometimes that does come with a literal experience, like dealing with grays. I've never met a good gray. I know people.
I told you guys, this is my guy. I told you, I scanned him. I was like, oh, let Matt rip. Listen, synthetic or programmed life forms. Who is programming the life form? Whom does it serve? Right? You have to realize, are the beings ensouled? Are they not ensouled? You know what I mean? Are they a part of a hive mind situation taking orders? Is a gray or a synth simply a piece of technology that other species use to walk around in the physical because it's very dense down here, number one. But also, number two, it's very easy for beings to hide in the fourth dimension, transfer their consciousness into a gray, walk around like they're in a 360 camera GoPro, do whatever they want to do in the physical with no sort of physical consequences if something weren't to go their way. So I got to be clear, a lot of these species that are sitting behind these dimensional walls are more cowards than you could ever imagine, because they're not stepping to you in the physical. They're not stepping to you into the backyard where you have a loaded shotgun. You can blow them off the back of the porch. No, they're transferring their consciousness and running something in the physical to do weird stuff. So I'm just trying to be clear. A lot of this oogie boogie stuff kind of falls apart when you actually get to the real brass tacks of why certain species use technology to interface with you. It's to protect them, not you. It's again, that's just with the grays and not all the species. But I just want to be clear because, here at TeamLight, there's a lot of light warriors that listen to us, Matt, across the planet. And I know there's a lot of guys that, I had JP on last night who was in the covert military industrial complex and the SSP and whatnot. He's seen things, Halo armor, and some technology that is about 50 to 60 years ahead of what anyone in the civilian world's seen. So this technology exists. So when we have technology that may be outside of us bump into the civilian world, people kind of have this, I wonder what that is. And then sometimes, just like a lot of people do, I'm sure they're friendly, right? Or they must be friendly. I'm not saying all grays are bad. What I'm trying to say is this: any being that does not serve the highest intent of unity, sovereignty, and love, and not to mention that, they're not following an ulterior motive for interacting with you. A lot of people have interactions with grays because they've been chipped or tagged since they were little kids because they've always been gifted, and they have grays check up on them instead of whatever beings it is that are controlling that, let's just call it synthetic GoPro that walks around. So again, I just want to be crystal clear for all the in-souled beings here participating in this game. Be very crystal clear with your intent and what you wish to interact with. When you guys have a big house party, say you invite 100 people into your parents' house, you're in high school and it's going off. Pay attention to who you let through the front door, because those 4 jackasses out of the 100 are the ones that are breaking stuff in the living room, doing weird stuff in the bedroom, jacking you, when you're having a great time with your friends. Pay attention to who you let in your consciousness. Pay attention to who you let in your field. I just wanted to share that, Matt, because you can use that reference for the entire spectrum of all the species we interact with.
Right.
Are they coming from their heart, or are they completely mind driven? Meaning that, or night side polarity, they're going to do what they were sent to do first before they assist you or aid you in any form or function. Once you start hanging out with people like this, or realize which people have entities attached to them, you can see the polarity that fast. So go ahead, brother.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of finish with the wonderful grace. I always think of everything as positive, even though we know that's not the reality. Is like when oftentimes when I've worked, this is let me back up. So coming from the church world, it's always like, just pray in the name of Jesus. And I always chuckled because Jesus didn't pray in his name. He was his name. And we know Jesus isn't his real name. It's Yeshua, right? And so I would laugh because I would have deliverance ministers, exorcists, whatever, that are like, yeah, I prayed in Jesus' name and nothing happened. I was like, yeah, that's not a demon. That's why it didn't work. And, that's where I kind of get bent out of shape. It's like, I could probably pray in the name of Rion and cast stuff out of people because we're all powerful. Even Jesus said, like, we're literally God's little g. And he said, you'll do the same things as me and even greater. So I always joke, if Jesus says I can do greater things than him, that could be getting my PhD, because I'm pretty sure he didn't have one. And that could be understanding how to, like, anything. So, but back to the grace. So like if somebody's having negative experiences with the grace, you got to find the spaceship and destroy it. That's the simple thing I'll say, because it just gets into like way too many things. But the problem is sometimes people get these vision. They like the visionary realm is open to them. They're able to see in the spirit into different dimensions. And some of them get amazing powers because stuff, you know, we'll just say their DNA gets tampered with. But most of those things are not, yeah, gosh, do I even want to say this on this? But they're not as powerful as people think. And I'll just kind of leave it at that. You know, I think most of the universe, when it sees us, it wants to be us. And because of like, you know, we're not this little earth suit thing. We're literally gigantic in the spirit realm. Like our hands are like, just our hands are huge. And this is why sometimes people get confused when they're looking in the spirit and they look at someone else. They're like, why is that person like 30 feet tall in the spirit? Like they're so confused because they're thinking it's going to be this little like human bodysuit. So yeah, it's pretty fun. It's pretty crazy, but you have to be able to distinguish, is this entity demon? Is it like, what kind of species is it? And, you know, is it a disembodied spirit? Like I can tell you a story about a guy that literally had a thing moving in him that you could see with your eyes. Like, why don't I just tell that story?
Go right ahead.
I'm in Uganda, Africa, and the witch doctors, none of them are doing good stuff. They're all going to give you kind of a frame of reference. A witch doctor in Africa who's powerful, not the beginning ones, they can literally change a purse into a snake. So you can just imagine what they can do. And they're usually using demons, disembodied spirits. So here I am in the middle of this village in Uganda, and you know, you teach and then people line up and you do healing work, right? And the last guy comes up and he is bent completely over. He's probably 60s or 70s years old. And he walks up with a staff and he just looks at me kind of like this. And I can feel this thing, but I'm not seeing anything spiritually, which is fine. Like I don't always see everything. And the interpreter says to me, he has a demon. And I just was like, oh, that's fantastic. We don't have to work against anything. But you see the look on his face. He's absolutely terrified. And when I do this kind of work in the church world, and like in the charismatic kind of version of Christianity, they call it being drunk in the Holy Spirit. You could call it getting drunk on energy, where so much power is flowing through you. I literally start laughing. And this happens to me all the time when I'm doing this work. So I literally like look and I was like, what's going on? And he points, and no joke, there is a lump like big enough for both of my hands sticking out of him. And I'm always like, hey, you got to cross the chicken line, right? If something frightens you, go for it. But I was like, well, that's weird. I've usually see a demon like spiritually, not like that. By the way, this was a disembodied spirit. I put my hand on his, on this lump, and it went whoop and moved to the back. And I was like, and I just was like, shakaraparaka. I started going in like what church calls tongues, what everyone else calls. I just started going for it, and it just kept moving. And so I stood back and I was like, all right, I need a different approach, because this isn't just like a demon that's just going to go out. And the person that's hosting me, she speaks English, my interpreter speaks English, and I do, and nobody else does. And she did the typical Christian thing. She goes, he doesn't have enough faith to be healed. And by the way, if you don't know this yet, anger can be like a very, very valuable force to deal with these things. I got so mad when she said he doesn't have enough faith to be healed. I literally grabbed his staff and I chucked it across the room. You could hear it hit. Like, this is an African church with like sticks and just like really primitive stuff. It hits the thing and falls. And I just looked at her and I pointed at her. I was like, I've got enough faith for this dude to be healed. And then I just was like pissed off, and I was like, shut up. And anyway, within like 30 seconds, cast it out. It left him. He stood straight up, completely healed. And I'm the kind of person that like the engineer that likes to take things apart and put it back together. In African culture, they're not allowed to sit with someone like me in those meetings, which I just think is stupid. But I was like, this dude is eating with me. And he tells me the story that he went to the local witch doctor to get a job, to have him do something in the spirit realm because he needed work. And he also had like basically this sickness that would have cost him like 40 US, but for him, that was like a year's salary. And so he he would get food given to him by other people, and he couldn't eat more than a spoonful of food without getting sick, because this witch doctor literally cursed him because he gave him the problem, gave him the disembodied spirit, because then he has a lifetime client. So, you know, he explains all this to me, and we're sitting there, and he ate a plate of food like nobody's business, and he was completely healed. And I always follow up if possible. And so I would always follow up with that local person, be like, how's he doing? You know, oh, he's doing great. But that's the part, is like, you know, you can't just, you know, say to something, hey, it's time for you to leave. Like, sometimes that works, but
it takes force. I mean, when I do it sometimes as you get stronger and stronger. You know, a lot of people do it with a hug, what, you know, the copy and paste. You know, you put your arms around someone, and I flex my chest, my pecs, and I lock my field. And when I grab somebody, I'm pushing from my soul, and I'm pushing everything through their body out their back, good and bad. I mean, I just push with that golden energy. Then the things settle back in that are supposed to be there. Obviously, you know, the light gold energy, right, resettles in. But there are specific skill sets that I know we brought here. A lot of the things I know that we know how to do, Matt, we didn't per se learn in this lifetime.
Right.
I know that you know what I mean? This is not something that you're going to, you know, a lot of people are born and have past lives where they were the shaman. They were the healer. So I think that's very important. Another thing too is to pay attention to the old man. The allowance that he allowed that being to feed off of him and reside in him, because he did a deal with the witch doctor.
Right.
Well, how many people do deals, right, even in Hollywood, and sign draconian agreements to forfeit their free will and their soul for fame, let's just say. So my thing is that pay attention, ladies and gents, to the agreement you make with any energies, especially those that do not serve you. Because he made a deal. So he goes, oh, I guess this is the deal I made. I'm going to live with a demon running around my body. So it was really, hey, tip my hat off to you. Listen, I just felt the energy, Matt. Okay, we're going to go back into the real thing here. Listen, there's something about Source's kids. Okay. Our creator's kids, and we're here to assist balancing this planet. Everyone in the comments, everyone that's a healer, there's master healers and light warriors in all these comments, and from right now live, who will be watching these videos. My thing is that there's a wave and a shift coming. There's something that's happening inside of us as we activate this dormant DNA and our real spiritual gifts, and that real energy as we activate our chakras, the chi flow, begin all the, you know, the damn doors open, let's just say, and that true force of creator is going to start flowing through us. And it's very important for right now for us to be able to discern between our brothers and sisters that need help. And a lot of people have a hard time sometimes asking for help. You know, if you see, you know, your brother and sister out there that need some help, you know, send a helping hand to them. You never know what that might do. Another thing too is you got to take responsibility. I'm going to get real crystal clear with this shit. The night side, the right side polarity in your life, they do a deal with you. It's kind of like smoking cigarettes. What do I mean? They get to feed off of you, but you get some sort of an energetic kickback by being in fear or anxiety or whatever that may be. It's not just a take. There's when you play victim mode, there is a negative energy force kickback. Okay. It's not, you know, there's two types of, I always say this, there's two types of people in this world. There's those that respond with positive energy, or those that respond with negative energy, similar to raising two different children. One child cleans the house, cleans their bed, mom and dad come home, okay? And they get attention or energy because they did a good job, good energy. Then you have the type of kid that breaks stuff, leaves the house a mess, so mom and dad yell at him or her, and they get that same energy kickback, but it's of a negative frequency. It's still energy. So please pay attention with your own subconscious and conscious mind, how you receive energy. And a lot of people that are going through breakups, let's talk about this, Max. I know you have to deal with it all the time with the different people you're helping. In the beginning, you could have met this person at a certain frequency or vibrational match. Okay. Then, for whatever reason, one of you two woke up or chose a different path or chose to take better care of yourself and you started raising your vibration. Okay. So, what happens is if the other partner chooses not to raise their vibration, work on themselves, integrate their shadow stuff, they'll keep creating fights with you. So, you drop your frequency back to the level they are at. Pay attention. This goes for every single language on the planet, every single belief system, every single culture. If one of the people in their relationship go here, this person who's not is going to start to create arguments and things to pull the other person down to see eye to eye. So that could be in work. That could be with the boss. That could be in a relationship. That could be with friends. So I find that that's a very easy way to see how energy manipulation and energy can take place, in loving families, but also in work environments. So, Matt, that being said, what are some cool? I know you go into, the spirit language, let's just say, but what are some good visualizations that you do when you're casting out spirits? And what are some good practices you find before you even attempt? Like, say your friend had a demon on him and you are going to attempt to do this, right? Obviously, with the power of Yeshua, right? And the gold team. But I'm trying to say, how do you prepare? Like, if we're going into a situation, explain to them how you prepare to, before you go.
I always joke I want to write a book called The Lazy Mystic because I really don't do anything anymore. I just show up and do what I do. But over the years, I would just say, like, the two things that I would say hands down that most people don't want to pay the price to do is honestly fasting. 18 years ago, I did a 40-day juice fast where I just had juice, breakfast, lunch, dinner. And, you're clear. Like, it just helps you connect with everything in a really good way. It activates things. But I'll just say, like, I've done multiple 40-day fasts, and I always do one, like, before I did the Conscious Expo, I did just a 5-day like water, and I had coffee. But like, there's not only is it just great for your physical body, especially if you do 20, but the other thing that I forced myself to do, I couldn't even tell you how many years ago, is I just started like and I just started like, I was like, okay, so let's test this. Cause one of the times I was in Africa, I think I was in Malawi, Africa. And I was like, can people get healed just by doing light language and putting your hands on people? And then, cause I'm like, I used to be a youth pastor and I always think of it like a science laboratory. We would try like shooting like thunderbolts and lightning, and people would start shaking. And like, I've just seen so many wild stuff that I'm always like, let's try this out. So when I was like, I'm not going to speak English, I'm not going to say anything, I'm just going to be like, and did light language, and people were getting healed. And I was like, all right. And that was years ago. So testing that, I was like, okay, well, what's going to happen if I do this for 10 minutes straight? And then I was like, because, I used to, do sports and athletic. I mean, I still work out and go to the gym and all that kind of stuff because you need to be ready. And it's just good for you. But the whole thing of like the concept of being disciplined, I made myself speak in light language for 20 minutes and then 30 minutes. And then what's funny is you get to the point where you kind of hit a wall because you're like, why does this feel like it's difficult? And I pushed myself to do it for like an hour, to where like my kids are coming up to me and asking me, then they were really little at the time, coming up to me and asking me questions like, hey, can I do this? And I'm like, and because they're also trying to distract me from what I'm doing. So I've raised them in all of this stuff so that they know it's real. But I would just say simply those two things are, like, to me, vital in this connection to source. I mean, and then there's a million other things you can do. You can collapse timelines. Some of the things I don't even know if I want to say, because it's like, it can get dangerous for some people. But we were talking about making trades, Rion, you were talking about how people make a trade energetically, money, all that kind of stuff. And what often happens is people make a trade that they're not even aware of what they're doing. So they like, one of the things I do with people is I untangle them from the government, from religion, I untangle them and help them untangle from literally everything, collapse all the false timelines. But then the big key is what has happened is in this reality, you could say 5D, 7D, whatever you want to say. You could talk about the 7 levels of heaven that, Judaism teaches. Christianity doesn't really teach it. 7 chakras, 7 spirits of God. Like, it's all like talking about the same stuff. But the point is, like, once you start collapsing those timelines, there's people that I know that are having these bizarre, crazy encounters that their soul pieces are literally being trafficked with, sometimes it's demons, sometimes it's, stuff. And that part of them is not whole. And so one of the things I'll do with people, and this is, I'm going to just say, like, this stuff isn't for everybody, because, it can be a little bit dangerous, but you really have to get every piece of your soul back, because, like, what oftentimes happens when I work with people that are like, we'll just say on the worst end of the spectrum, who need freedom, they've experienced, and you could think of, like, that island where people were put, like, people who have gone through horrible stuff, that basically, getting pieces of their soul that have been used in different injectable things that people take, and pieces of flesh, and, atoms, and people use that stuff for diabolical things. So it's important to help the person become whole, and, getting their soul back, and then, in a sense, turning on all of their, like, light bodies and getting those activated is just absolutely vital. And so, yeah, I mean, people do Merkabahs, they do light codes, they do all that stuff. That's great. Like, I just have never had to really do that stuff, because most of that stuff, as I said in the very beginning of this, when I was a kid, I literally had these diamond white light things coming, and I always like to let other people describe what they think it was, instead of me telling them what I know it was. But because I had those things coming into my room and experienced some things, just growing up, that honestly, as a kid, it was so terrifying that it, like, I just know stuff just got activated, seeing dragons, all that kind of stuff. Some are good, some are bad. Yeah, that's part of how all this stuff works is,
Yep.
You learn as you go. Like, so much of this stuff, I had no idea, especially being in the church world. Like, I mean, I tell this story a lot. It was the biggest event of the year. All the prophets come in, they're going to predict the future. I'm a prophet in training at the church, and I'm walking down the aisle, and there's probably 500 to 1,000 people there. And literally the roof lifts off, and I see this purple dragon flying over the church, breathing fire. And I know most people get scared of that stuff. And I was like, whoa, that's
the power of transmutation. Yep.
Yeah. And the nice thing about this community is, like, I told my, like, lead pastor, I was like, bro, I just saw, like, a purple dragon. He's like, yeah. Like, where most churches, they'd be like, get the heck out of here. You got,
Right.
You'd never be invited back, So it's, and I'm just kind of throwing a bunch of stuff out there, because I know, like, people who are watching and listening have had these kind of experiences. And a lot of times they don't know, like, what does this mean? Why did this happen? And it's okay. Like, eventually you will get the answer, because everything is inside of you. You don't, like, you may hear somebody talking about it, give you something. You're like, I don't know if that resonates with me. That's okay. Consider it. But that's the thing is, everybody doesn't need to do this stuff. You just need to do what you feel led to do. And that's the most important part is, like, learn how to do a lot of these things. It's great. But ultimately, if you're like, I was working with this engineer recently who works with, like, plasma technology, and it's like, he's a healer, but he's not going to go around doing, like, healing work consistently. Like, his thing is, like, he may create, or recreate what's already available in other planets.
Right.
Something for Earth, if somebody doesn't, like, if the black copters don't start flying over his house and, start doing stuff. So Yeah.
For all you 0 point technology engineers, make sure you put your device in the ground about 8 feet of depth, and make sure you have the different types of lead and mercury paint to hide the energy signature. Or yes, you will have Black Hawk helicopters. There's a frequency that comes off of a 0 point device, and it's the frequency that pops up on satellite. It's actually the harmonic of when you actually are pulling energy from the vacuum or 0 point. It puts off a very specific frequency. They track that frequency. So if you guys are playing with 0 point technology, make sure you shield it and put it in the ground if you are going to be pulling power from it. I have a lot of friends out here in Sedona too that are all retired from different programs, and that's the first thing they say is you have to shield it. But Matt, that was absolutely fantastic. I think a lot of people that are in the comments and a lot of the, our friends and family out there, the descriptions and the terms that and the vocabulary. What I really want to get is, if you're new watching us, or if you're new in Matt, if I'm new to you on Matt's channel, let's just say, the main thing I want you guys to realize is don't get hung up on vocabulary. Back in the day when the Bible was written, the human intellectual, process was only able to characterize and utilize certain vocabulary terms based upon the intelligence of that time, let's just say. Now we have different words to explain and discern between what they were trying to say in these ancient books or in these books of knowledge. So multidimensional is something that should have been there on the first page. Human beings are multidimensional. We exist not only in the physical, but in other dimensions simultaneously, right? The higher dimensions do exist. They talk about the seven heavens. And Matt, I want to drop my download now, what we got when I woke up this morning that we talked about. All right, ladies and gents, you're hearing it here first. I think I figured out what "let my people go" really meant when Moses said that. And me and Matt were talking about this before this podcast began. And, I think Moses was a hybrid between the ruling race of Egypt at that time and, half that, where there be Anunnaki, or I don't know, whatever race that was that built Egypt, all the pyramids in Egypt, but they weren't humans who built those pyramids. Right now, we're looking at an age structure of around 30,000 years ago, not only with what's on top of the Pyramid of Giza, but the LiDAR scans from the Italian team that showed there's a huge underground, not only infrastructure with huge columns. It's an electrical device, right? It's a bioelectric device. The pyramids themselves, they work like an engine. But the city that was found and the infrastructure found underneath, it's far older than what they're saying, 7,000 years. Okay. So that being stated, I woke up this morning to "let my people go." And I had this weird vibe, and I was like, we think, in my memory, when I say "let my people go," I mean, I've seen some movies, the Ten Commandments and whatnot, I think his name was, I forget the guy's name, Ben-Hur, whatever. But then there was also, the Disney movie, "Let My People Go," and like the people of Egypt. And I was like, no, that is not, neither of those sounds right. And I would say, "Let my people go." And I was like, was there an extraterrestrial species on this planet that built the pyramids, existed in them for quite some time, had a base here, multiple bases here? And when Moses said, "let my people go," was he really saying, let the human race go from being enslaved by these beings that were basically their rulers, their slave masters? This was nothing. This had nothing to do, "let my people go," with you being a religion, whether you being Jewish or Israeli or, from Israel or no. I'm thinking to myself, why would you say that? Is it really a spiritual belief that locked you into this? Or does it make more sense that let the humans go? Let my brothers and sisters go by a, technologically advanced species pretending to be superior based upon their technology? Why are all the statues 30 feet high? Why did they remove all of the giants? The Smithsonian's the first person that shows up to remove all the giant bones. What were the Nephilim? What was the Nephilim's offspring? We know that in the Egyptology function of it, that the pharaohs and a lot of these families were all inbred, marrying their sisters and shit. Why? Were these ET species trying to hold on to their specific DNA traits? What are all these cone-shaped heads that we find? Why does the Pope have that special hat, even though he's human now, But when they originally invented that hat, when the Pope sat, you know, in the religious and the different religions on earth, did he have a pointed head? What I'm getting to is let my people go. I think that we've been fighting this slavery on this planet for so long that people, it would blow your wig back to realize how long we've been in this fight. Number one. Number two, every single time we rebel and go against these jackasses, what do? Reset it. Tartaria, I believe, for a certain part of time was free. Free energy, free frequency, free vibration. They erased it from all the history books. Why? I'm just getting to a place now where all of these old stories are making a different, like they're making a different vibration in my body. I was like, if we were there, let's just say 3,000 years ago, or 2,000 and change, let's just say 2,200 years ago, and we were like, hey, let my people go, whatever that may be, and I'm a hybrid, half human, half whatever it was that's controlling all these people in Egypt. Let my people go. You have that human heart in you. You have that compassion. You have that creator's love in your chest. They do not. So what I'm getting to, ladies and gents, there is a very contrived function of history that will be dismantled. And I'm telling you here, and I'm telling you now, some of us are getting our memories back. Some of us aren't going to need to access the Vatican archives to pull this information back from our soul streams. Be prepared. So when all these religions, you know, like Baba Gita is 7,000 years old, they have flying saucers. It's written in their page. Okay. This thing with King James, I love Yeshua, but I got to be honest with you. This thing with King James, the first book King James wrote, okay, was a damn, you know, demonology encyclopedia. Look it up. First book King James published was demonology. I know, Matt, you're a pastor. What I'm trying to say is that why did they leave all the books of Enoch and the keys of Enoch out of the Bible? How many books did they leave out of the Bible? What is this diluted thing that they've given us to say this is the truth? This is what happened in the first chapter, right? I'll let you explain this. You're the expert. In Revelation, they talk about giants. They talk about these things. So I just wanted to say that because let my people go. I don't think that was a religious thing. I don't think that was because of how much melanin was in your skin pigment, ladies and gentlemen. I think there was another ET species here that was controlling humans like slaves. And I think that humans learned that trait from a particular group of ETs that were on this planet. So that's what I'd like to say.
I can go in like 1,000 directions with this.
Go ahead.
Let me just start with this. If you go to Africa and you're an outsider, they call you Mzungu. And it just means outsider. And a lot of times, like an African will tell you it means, you know, Caucasian, Caucasus Mountains, you know, where Noah's Ark is, all that kind of stuff, mud flood stuff. But the reality is the reason they said Mzungu was the original meaning was gods, because the first people that they saw they did not look like 6 foot tall white dudes and white ladies. These were like giant people. The other part of most of tell you this, they had red hair because you know what? When they mummified them, they still have red hair. They can check their DNA. But in those different parts, you could argue some of them were Nephilim. You could argue they were hybrids. You could argue some of them were real, like they were the same as us. And then in between, some of these rulers were the ones that were enslaving everybody. And what's fascinating is, you know, I'm not going to say Moses is or isn't, but a lot of people believe he was not from this world. And they call it a mistranslation in Latin, in the Latin Bible. It literally says there was light horns shining out of his head. And so, you know, there's pictures of this stuff. You know, painters have made this and they'll say like, oh, that's not true. And then if you want to nerd out with the Bible, like there's a reason we have this 66 Masonic books of the Bible right now. I'll just leave that stay away from Masonry. That's another thing that when I've been breaking curses and things off of families, like, you know, barrenness, like there's just so many curses that come down on people's lives from Masonry. But the Bible right now is literally 66 books. That's the approved kind of thing. But if you go back to the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, they had 81 to 83 books. And most of the Orthodox churches taught the mystical parts of the Bible so that people were supernatural and engaging with realms of the spirit so that they could, do in a sense what, Jesus was doing. And then over time, it's like, oh, they're getting too powerful. Let's kind of like shut all this down. So that's kind of the part where like, you can look at a story, because here, the beautiful thing about Moses is like, I know enough Hebrew and Greek, the main languages of the Bible are written in, to be dangerous, not fluent. But the story of Moses, he's literally put in an ark. It's a reed basket, but the translation is an ark. It's the only time that Hebraic word is used, just like Noah's ark. And so that's where you go, somebody who's going to save humanity is put in an ark. He's put in a reed basket. He goes over the river. And by the way, the Egyptian story was that they were going to have a savior to come free the people over the water, because you guys know water's powerful. You can engage with the element of water, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But that's the thing is, and then of course, Moses learned all of the, whatever you want to call those supernatural things that they were turning, their staffs into snakes. And he used that power, their own power. He used it against them and set people free with his buddy, it was Moses and Aaron. So the fun thing of like, if let's just say people just think the Bible is 100% not true. The reality is you can literally just close your eyes and you can go look at this stuff yourself and see what's true or not. You can go into whatever you want to call it, realms of the spirit, of meditation. You can go look at Moses yourself and you go have a conversation with him. Like, I think that's the part that sometimes people need permission to like, go explore, go have fun. Don't do dumb, dangerous stuff that's going to like entangle you and make trades with stuff. But like, there's even people listening to this that like Moses is in your team. Like, I had a woman come with me to the Conscious Life Festival. I brought a whole team of healers with me, and one of her spirit guides is Moses. And the first time I met her, and she had no background in religion. She knew nothing. I was like, hey, like, you got a huge staff in your hand. And so I started like, cause I didn't know what her background, I started like, in the church, they call it, let me prophesy over you. And, we just call it a reading. And I started telling her who I was seeing. And she was like, I'm going to have to go read about Moses. And I was like, dude, just go have a conversation with him. Like, these, a lot of times people are like, oh, they're dead, you can't talk to them. Well, I can tell you Elijah's not dead. Moses isn't dead. And I'm not saying every person that you read about in a book is real or every person you have access to, but I think what happens is we throw everything out because, I could sit here and tell you bad experiences I had in that world too, like probably more than the average bear because of what I was doing and what I was seeing. I mean, I literally saw people when I was working in light language leave their feet and go flying. So many, I left my body in front of 300 people and flew over the world. And the nice thing is I was in an environment where everyone knew this stuff was real. And the church service just kept going on. I'm standing frozen in the middle of the room. And like, that was just like normal for people who, knowing like you want to call people like a title, a mystic, a prophet, an oracle, whatever. Again, I'm not just big on titles, but if you don't tell people like what you've experienced, people just don't really have like a paradigm or a box to put those things in. But the point in all this is like, to me, let my people go is in a sense what's happening in that wonderful country where the Iranians are.
It's going on right now. That's why I think it's so relevant. I think that time's repeating and we're all coming to a head collectively, consciously. And I think that the higher vibration is winning. And I think that some of these lower vibrations need to be moved out. People need to realize that people that you see, pay attention. Is there a soul in there? Is it an unensouled being? Is it a demon puppeting a human around? Is it someone wearing a mask? Is it a reptilian with a rubber mask on? Who are these people? Who are these narratives? What is their agenda? What is their motivation? We've already seen their 2030 agenda. We already know that a lot of these guys that forced all these people to get the jab should all be locked up in jail. Every single one of them. It's mass genocide what they did. And the fact that they're finding in the Epstein files that Epstein himself put his own DNA in the vaccines.
Yeah.
You guys need to read the Epstein files if you haven't. Like I said, it's very, very, I don't recommend reading it if you're a visual person or looking at it, but I think it's important for you guys to see how the other team was playing, because a lot of good-hearted, loving people had no idea that this level of evil existed on the planet. This disclosure is ripping the Band-Aid off and showing you how your resources, how your energy, and how your free will has been misused, and at the expense of many innocent, beautiful people. And we just wanted to be honest with you. We're not saying pick one direction or the other. We're letting you guys know, hey, maybe before you have a really biased, argument inside your head on why you don't want to believe something, why don't you do your own research and look it up yourself and look at all the images yourself, read all the emails between them yourself, and then go, shit, is this what these guys have been talking about? We're like, yeah, welcome to the show, bro. Welcome. You're starting to wake up. You got to ask yourself some real questions. Why do you guys need to know? Let's talk about this, Matt. I know you understand this. In the future, for the generations to come, us indigos, that generation X, Generation Z, let's just say maybe some of our parents, but we're here, us indigos, to hold the line. We do not want to replicate these shitty stories any longer, number one. Our generations want the truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. They want the truth. If it's good, the bad, and the indifferent. I want to know the truth. If it's, a good thing, a bad thing, regardless, because here's why. If you know where we come from, you know our true history, we can make better decisions collectively together on how to steer us and our people to a greater and brighter future. If you hide from us all of the things that have been done to us and how our power has been misused and put in the wrong people's hands, right? I think people are going to be in shock that a lot of the people that they thought, they were looking up to, or the leaders of these countries, aren't even human in the first place, or they're an unensouled vessel being controlled like a puppet. I think there's a reason why Dicinian glass is considered a classified level of technology on the same level as an atomic bomb. Because if you had blue sunglasses with Dicinian glass, and I could see every single person that has a soul in their body and those that don't when I go shopping at the grocery store, how many people on this planet would love to have a pair of those, in their nightstand? Hold on a second. Put the glasses on. So there's a lot of things out there, ladies and gents, in discerning the truth. And I think that's why, I invited Matt. I felt his energy. I felt that source code coursing through him. I knew he was a healer, and my gut was dead on. Matt, I didn't know half the stuff you just said, bro. You're crushing. But my heart and my soul knew you. I was like, absolutely, you're coming. Why we want you guys to come to the Rise of the Guardians and hang out. We want you guys that may be full of doubt, that maybe you just woke up. It's way faster if you hang out with people that have been training for the last 10, 20, 30 years and learn from us, rather than trying to do it in an inorganic way where you're basically rolling the dice at YouTube or Instagram to find something to watch. Come and roll with the people and learn from the people that have been doing it for years, decades, and can share their own experience, right? Which is so important with you, how they learned it. And that goes for everyone in the comments. There's some very powerful beings that watch our videos, Matt. And it goes for everyone out there. I think that people should lead through their experience. They should have the humbleness to recognize when they've made a mistake in their life and how they fixed it. And I think that vulnerability and that truth is what the world needs right now. We don't need people sitting on podiums barking orders at us. We need our friends and family and love to rise on this planet, so that through compassion we can grow together and make sure we don't have another time loop situation where this sort of behavior is tolerated in the future for the generations to come and the kids. So, Matt, what would you like to say, my brother, to wrap this up? Yeah.
So let me go back, because I know there's a lot of healers watching this, to something practical. Like, I have a lot of people would call weird out there friends. And that's great. Like, I have people that I always consult with when when I come across things that just don't work. And when I hear something that even for me, I'm like, that's insane. This lady who's seeing like a drone following her because she's chipped. The first time I heard something like that, she's telling me like, I'm not crazy. And I was like, I know you're not. But it's like, I know people, and I've been lucky enough to meet people who like are beyond what I'm doing. And here's the story. Because you mentioned that thing that people got, you know, and injected themselves with, unfortunately. You know, I've come across so many people who have neuropathy, brain fog. We won't even get into my myocarditis and all those other things. But like, so I was getting ready to go to Germany to go do like this healing work. And I'm talking to this guy that's, you know, beyond. And he says to me, because I said to him, like, hey, what have you been doing with the nanites and all the stuff that's in the air and in the jabs and all that kind of stuff? And he said, dude, just do the same thing you've been doing. He's like literally commanded to disintegrate. And I always tell people, everything is voice activated. Your voice is the most powerful voice. And so he was like, dude, just command the nanites to disintegrate, see them disintegrate, see any kind of chips to disintegrate, and watch what happens. And when he told me, I'm like a huge skeptic. Like, don't get me wrong, even though I've seen crazy stuff, but I'm like, you know what? If I come across it, I'm going to try it. And by the way, backstory, I heard a voice years ago that goes, hey, you question everything. Why on earth would you allow anybody to be injected with anything? You know, because I had kids, and I listened to that voice and started doing my own like research on all that fun stuff. And then I'm the guy that was like telling everybody, don't get that thing injected into you. So I'm in Germany. After the meeting is over, I'm doing healing work. Come across this woman, brain fog, neuropathy, like extreme pain in her legs. And, you know, I put my hand on her, and I just said to her, like, did you get the jab? And she's like, yeah. Pretty obvious based on her symptoms. Commanded the pain to leave, commanded the brain fog to go, took authority over the nanites and the particles, and literally just went and just destroyed them and disintegrated them. And I always just like, to be safe, I just cover like the air, the water, food, especially in America. Like Europe, the food's pretty good. You go to Europe, you lose weight, you feel good. If you eat the normal American diet, you're going to feel like trash. So you just go, once could be a coincidence. She's completely healed in 7 minutes. All the pain leaves her. She gets full range of motion back in her legs, no neuropathy, no brain fog, completely clear. I do work on a bunch of different other people, different things. And I come across this big German dude. And if you know how Germans are, they're like very like, and this dude is so tall, like I can hardly put my hand on his head as I'm like trying to reach him. Same symptoms, brain fog, chest pain, neuropathy. And he, you know, and I always ask people on a scale 1 to 10, how much pain are you in? Sometimes people are like a 30, but this guy was like, yeah, it's a 10, very stoic. Start doing the shaka. One of my friends calls it the Shaka Khan, because I'm like, and I take authority over the nanites and all that other kind of stuff, just like I did with the other lady. And within this time, it was like even quicker. Within 5 minutes after like destroying that stuff, completely healed. And here's this like 6'4" dude, stoic German dude, bawling his eyes out because he can't believe he's like healed. And so if you got that thing, that experiment, go do some protocols, get some help. You can definitely get help from that stuff. But like, this is the part of why community is so important. And I don't know everything. And I come against and come up against stuff that I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And I just go how I feel intuitively led. And then if I feel like, oh, I need to call this person and ask them like, hey, have you ever dealt with this? That's why community is so important, because it's caused me to go like to places, you know, I would have never even guessed myself, except for having out of body experiences where you sometimes go there first. But this is the thing, is just remember, no matter who you are, the answers are always out there. Like it just, you know, sometimes the answer comes to me 8 months later, and that's okay. You know, but community, I just can't emphasize how important it is. Yes. Whether you're the most powerful being on earth, or you like, you know, or if somebody's an NPC, we can get those NPCs rocking. Sometimes you just have to be in the right energy around the right people.
Yes, that's true.
So
that's true. The main thing is with the jab is to remove the spike proteins, and the main thing you want to do is stop the mRNA replication that happens in your liver. You guys can just copy what I just said in the chat GBT, but you want to stop the mRNA replication that takes place in the human liver. That's how it was designed. You stop it from replicating, then you guys can flush it out. There's different things you can do with they hook you up to a machine. They can clear your blood. They remove all the bad stuff out of your blood. I don't know what kind of machine it is, but there's a lot of help out there now because we're all in this together. The point of this stuff is that we're here to help. We're here to assist our family. We're here to make your guys' life better, happier, and more abundant, period. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I love you, and for NAC, yeah, for liver support. Yes, NAC. And for everyone out there watching right now, for Matt too, why don't you guys type in where around the world you guys are watching from? We always like to do this. Everyone punch in where, check it in from all around the world, where you guys are punching in from. And, Matt, I trusted my gut with you, and I could not be more impressed, not only with your background, but obviously the healing abilities. And I'm just really looking forward to seeing all you guys, giving you guys a hug when you come out to Rise of the Guardians in May. That's May 8th through the 10th, 2026. We also have the Fishers are hosting the Day of Being, which takes place on Monday. And that'll be another free event. And you can get your tickets at teamlightstore.com. Now, Matt, where can they find you? I know you have your website. Let me pull this comment down. Oh, it's going off. It's going off. Matt, so is that mysticmattyoung.com? Is that where people can find you? And explain to them how they can get at you.
Yeah, I mean, you can find me at mysticmattyoung.com on all the socials, TikTok, Instagram. I literally just started everything over a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. So if you enjoy what you're hearing, go ahead and give me a follow.
Absolutely. And like I said, ladies and gents, I can't wait to meet all you guys in person, for all you guys coming to Rise of the Guardians. And if you can't make it, I understand. We will be professionally recording everything for everybody. And my point is that I want to hang out with you guys. I want to see you guys. So that's what it is. There were some questions in the comments. Hey, this is a come meet your soul family, high vibe tribe out here in Sedona. And many of you guys have never been to Sedona, Arizona before. You've never experienced what it is to be in this environment. It's very gorgeous, very beautiful place. Come and hang out. There'll also be some retreats that we're going to put on our website to help out with some of the different speakers and organizations. I know Bill Homan's going to be out here doing a retreat with David Starr. They have the Mitchell Hedges Crystal Skull, one of the 12 main crystal skulls on Earth. And from all the speakers, the lineup's insane, hosted by Emery Smith and my brother, who's the main host of Cosmic Disclosure on Gaia. And we'll go into more of all the speakers later. But Matt, I tip my hat off to you, brother. Creator is never wrong. And ladies and gents, I love you. All right. Till next time. Peace.
Turn off the light. Take a deep breath and relax.
From the stars we came, ancient souls awake. Pleiadian light, to the seventh dimension.